One of the main factions from the games was just revealed in The Last of Us Season 2, and they will be crucial to the shows that follow. The cast of The Last of Us Season 2 is larger than that of the first season, emphasizing the ensemble above the main pair of characters. In Season 1, viewers saw factions, including the Fireflies, FEDRA, and the Kansas City Resistance, with no obvious moral distinction between them. The second season will continue to explore this issue. Faction formation and dissolution in the lawless nation shown in the Last of Us franchise illustrate the brutality and instability of the show's setting. Even Jackson, a tranquil communal utopia, is upended by a plague of infected in The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. In Season 2, Abby, a new character, finds Joel Miller and kills him. Is the most dramatic scene in the episode. Abby's gang members are shown wearing patches that read WLF, which introduces a significant new group. WLF stands for Washington Liberation Front in The Last of Us. WLF is one of the main groups in the Seattle subplot of The Last of Us Part 2, which makes up the majority of the narrative. Although they are frequently called wolves, the Washington Liberation Front, or WLF for short, is a noble-sounding moniker for a group that is really a paramilitary organization that possesses some of the most powerful weapons and military equipment in the Last of Us universe. The WLF controlled Seattle after overthrowing Fedra. At the beginning of the epidemic, the majority of the city quarantine zones were under the control of FEDRA, a U.S. government agency that appears in The Last of Us. However, Fedra's oppressive control often creates adversaries, as demonstrated by Boston in Season 1, which prompts the formation of violent resistance groups. With these resistance groups, The Last of Us repeatedly examines a cycle in which, after seizing power, they turn into exactly what they previously despised. WLF plays the part in The Last of Us Part 2. After Fedra's appalling treatment in the Seattle area, characters named Emma and Jason Patterson founded WLF, and the initially non-violent protests swiftly descended into violent reprisal. Isaac Dixon became the commander of WLF through death and brutality when the Pattersons were killed. He helped beat Fedra and take control of most of Seattle. Instead of providing the city with freedom, WLF became the new city government and compelled the remaining citizens to join them. Abby's group joined the WLF after the Fireflies disbanded. Abby and her pals, who were all young Fireflies in the Salt Lake City institution before the show's 5-year time gap, were first presented in the Season 2 opener of The Last of Us. Abby and her friends were left on their own after Joel assassinated the doctor, Abby's father, and butchered the Fireflies of St. Mary's Hospital. Since the Fireflies are now all but extinct, they went north to Seattle and joined WLF, a decision they now have conflicting opinions about. Although Abby and her friends have lived in Seattle for years, the game's flashbacks show that her attempts at happiness were hampered by her desire for vengeance against Joel. The folks in Seattle have gone through the highs and lows of their own friendships and love relationships, just like Ellie, Dina, and Jesse did in Jackson. Nevertheless, WLF has persisted in waging war for control of the city, while Jackson has pursued a semblance of peace, concentrating on defending its citizens against outside and infected forces. The WLF's war with the Seraphites explained. The Seraphites, a group who had fled the main city to settle on a nearby island, were WLF's primary antagonist after the fall of Fedra. As time went on, their hostility grew more intense. The Seraphites were offended by the Wolves' moniker, Scars, as they had evolved into a religious sect led by an enigmatic figure known as the Prophet. The most peculiar people in the games are the Seraphites, who follow stringent guidelines including not utilizing any weapons or implements from the old world, like tools. When the Prophet planned a blast against a WLF supply unit, killing multiple soldiers and destroying trucks, the war between the Seraphites and the Wolves began. In the video game, Isaac is presented as a vicious figure whose main goal is to fight the Seraphites rather than defend his own people. He plans a full-scale invasion in the game, trapping the main characters in the midst of a full-scale conflict as WLF gets ready to finally vanquish its adversary by bringing all of its boats to Seraphite Island. What happened to the Washington Liberation Front in The Last of Us? The POV characters in The Last of Us, Part 2 leaves Seattle before the war's conclusion is revealed, making the conclusion ambiguous on several levels. WLF launches a full-scale invasion of Seraphite Island, and the ensuing conflict is catastrophic for both sides. After earlier disobeying Isaac's demands to aid in the fight, Abby finds herself embroiled in the struggle and confronts him directly. After Isaac is shot in the back, the invasion's conclusion is explained in a radio broadcast. Although the game shows that the Seraphite establishments are nearly completely destroyed by fire during the invasion, WLF was pushed back from the island by the Seraphites. No one wins in war, as the saying goes, is very corny, but the Seraphites end up with a phony victory. What happens to WLF in The Last of Us after the conflict is uncertain. Like the Fireflies, they may disperse, their population dispersing to other cities and factions, or they may rebuild with the remaining members. The HBO version might provide additional information.